In his past life, Rong was a scientific researcher who worked tirelessly in experiments, but ended up staying up late and dying suddenly during the green pepper stage. After being reborn, in addition to wanting to make some money to satisfy his life by taking advantage of the time difference, he also firmly adhered to his dream of scientific research and serving the country. He wanted to use his scientific research skills to block the vast yellow sand outside the national border, turn deserts into oases, and make people's lives more beautiful. Chapter 1. Cherish life and refuse to stay up late. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At 12 o'clock in the evening at Jincheng University, the second biology building was brightly lit, with smoke swirling in an office. Only one figure could be seen in the hazy atmosphere, and the night was very quiet, with only the sound of keyboard tapping heard. Suddenly, the figure in the smoke held onto the table, his face in great pain, and he suddenly felt suffocated. He slammed his head hard on the table with a bang. He seemed to feel like he was floating in the air, hearing the screams of many people in his ears, seeing an ambulance driving downstairs, seeing himself taken to the hospital, and his life appearing like a lantern in front of him. His name is Rong, and he comes from an 18th-tier rural area in the south. He has always listened to his parents and teachers, and is truly a well-behaved child. 12 years ago, when he was admitted to a 985 university in the West, the whole village caused a sensation. Everyone was reciting professional names that they couldn't understand, as if Rong had already made a name for himself, and Li's parents were also smiling brightly. In college, he also went to the library to study every day, just like ordinary students, without socializing or traveling, appearing out of place. After graduating from university, I followed the trend and chose to pursue a postgraduate recommendation at my university, then pursued a master's and doctoral program and went abroad for exchange. Due to internal competition, he was unable to stay on campus as a teacher after publishing 2 articles and could only continue to work as a postdoctoral researcher. After staying up all night for 2 consecutive days to revise his postdoctoral fund book, he decisively passed away, ending his brief life at the age of 28. Rong, wake up quickly, it's time to stop. In a daze, Rong was awakened by a voice, and when he opened his eyes, it was the dazzling sunlight, accompanied by a drunken headache. Damn it, it's another day to work. Rong frowned and cursed. It's okay, Rong. It's just a confession that was rejected. Where is there no grass in the world? Why do you have to fall in love with a single flower? The speaker was a young man aged 17 or 8, with a tall figure and a fair complexion. The sunlight shone on his profile, with a sculptural outline. He grinned again and said, I told you a long time ago that she is such a beautiful girl. How blind would she be to see you? If you don't listen and insist on taking advantage of the end of the college entrance examination, what will happen? It's not over yet. It's okay, it's okay. I heard there are quite a few girls in college. With our qualifications, are you still worried about not finding a partner in college? After the guy finished speaking, he looked at Rong with straight eyes and said, you shouldn't have had any mental problems with confessing failure, right? Although she is indeed good-looking, you can't just be like this just because of confessing failure. As he kept nagging, Rong interrupted, who are you? Me. The young man's face was first surprised, then angry. I'm Yang Lei, you're just heartbroken, you're pretending you don't know me. After speaking, he pulled Rong, who was stumbling, out of the car. Yang Lei. Rong did have a good friend named Yang Lei, who grew up playing together since childhood, but now he is in the imperial capital. Isn't Yang Lei in the imperial capital? Dog day Rong, you probably haven't slept soundly. I've never been to the imperial capital before. Where did I go to the imperial capital? Rong remained silent because he saw the high school gate, and on the mirror outside was also a thin and tall young man, as if he had remembered himself. His short hair was exactly the hairstyle set by the school. There are a few clouds blocking the sunlight in the sky, and a few plastic bags float on the road with the wind. The roadside printing shop is still bustling. Based on the current situation and what Yang Lei had said to him before, Rong suddenly felt a bit dizzy, as if he had also been reborn in a very conventional way. Suddenly, there was a slight churn in his stomach, and Rong walked up to the electric pole and started vomiting while supporting it. Yang Lei didn't mind either. He walked over and patted his back, saying, "It's okay, it's much better after vomiting." The vomit in his stomach was almost clean, and Rong's mind began to work. The handsome young man in front of him began to gradually overlap with the image in his mind. "Let's go, we're almost late," Yang Lei said. The old class said they'll gather at 9 o'clock to get the admission notice. Look at it now, it's already past 10. Yang Lei can only be regarded as a good friend drinking fragmented pieces, and many things have not been remembered yet. By saying this, Rong seemed to really remember that it was Yang Lei and himself who received the admission letter together. He was from Jincheng University and Yang Lei was from Chong'an Jiaotong University. This year is not 2023, it is 2011. The two walked unsteadily to the classroom door, with Yang Lei talking and Rong trying to recall Tongjiang and his class 10 years ago. During my college years, I stayed at school every vacation for reasons such as doing experiments and internships. I never really went home, and occasionally I hurried back home without paying attention to the changes in Tongjiang. Later, after finishing my studies, I found it even more difficult to go home in order to secure a teaching position. Every time, I only remembered my home when I was exhausted from the group meeting, but the next day I was covered up by the numb rush. Pushing open the door, homeroom teacher Lao Lu was giving a speech to everyone. "You have finished your college entrance examination and are all liberated, but the only thing I need to advise you is to work hard during your college years. Although you are not as busy as high school, you must also ensure that you basically do not fail the exams in order to graduate and find a good job." Yang Lei pulled Rong into the classroom quietly. Due to the loud opening of the door, the whole class turned to look at them and whispered to each other. Rong looked at the familiar and unfamiliar faces in front of him, feeling a bit sad. "What are you doing? Hurry back to your seat and everyone will come and collect their admission letters," said old Lu. After receiving the admission letter, Rong walked outside first, and Yang Lei followed closely. Rong touched his pocket. There was no wallet, no phone, and no online payment. He sighed and said, "I don't have any money. I want to buy something." Yang Lei also knew that it was easy to get thirsty after a hangover, and besides, it was still quite stuffy today. He asked, "Is it still cola?" Cola, and also make the hibiscus king." "Damn it, when did you learn to smoke like a dog?" Yang Lei widened his eyes, as if he didn't know his friend who had been with him for so many years. Rong waved his hand, feeling that his good friend had not been so verbose before. "I'm not in a good mood and want to smoke." Yang Lei felt that he couldn't say it, hesitated for a moment, and went to buy cigarettes. Rong looked at the 4 big characters, Tongjiang No. 1 Middle School, on the school gate, feeling like he was dreaming. After all, it was also a memory of over 1,000 days and nights. Suddenly seeing it again still felt a bit sad. "Then, your cigarette," after a while, Yang Lei returned. "Or does the Lotus King feel it?" Rong smiled. In his past life, he usually smoked Jincheng. He skillfully pulled out a cigarette and handed it to Yang Lei. "Do you smoke it?" Yang Lei hesitated for a while before finally taking it over. After all, Yang Lei had just graduated from high school and had a student mentality. He didn't dare to violate high school rules, unlike Rong who had graduated for many years and didn't care at all. Rong sat down on the curb with a cigarette in his mouth, enjoying himself as he swallowed the clouds and looked at the students passing by. Suddenly, a pair of white legs stood in front of Rong. "Who are you in Chapter 2? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Rong lifted his head and his eyes swept recklessly from bottom to bottom. Crystal clear cardamom, slender and white legs, then a slender waist that was less than a grip, and then up, a small lotus bud. Stinky rascal, where are you looking? Rong looked up and saw a handsome face, but now there was a hint of anger hanging on it. His small mouth was tightly pursed, his nose was slightly wrinkled, and his big eyes, which flickered under thick eyelashes, added a lot of elegance. Soft hair draped over his shoulders. You stinky rascal, you're actually smoking. Let's see if I'll tell Uncle Lee when I go back. The voice was quite pleasant, but there was a hint of anger in the cuteness. Rong didn't remember who she was for a moment. He turned around to look at Yang Lei, who didn't know what he meant and looked at him with a bewildered expression. Who are you? Rong shook his head helplessly. Wow. Yang Lei gave Rong a thumbs up and looked at him with admiration. TSK, I confessed to someone yesterday and forgot about them today. It's really a bit of a playboy. A sturdy boy walked over and smiled, saying, although you've been heartbroken, we all know it, you need to pick yourself up instead of drinking to avoid it. We hope you can get out of the shadows soon and welcome a better tomorrow. This may sound like encouragement, but there is always a hint of hypocrisy and ridicule, especially when paired with his teasing gaze. Rong has seen this kind of person many times. When he went to college to apply for a job after graduating with a PhD, people would see his achievements with these kind of eyes. Although Rong sat on the ground, he looked up and stared at the talking boy until he saw that he was uncomfortable, and then asked, who the hell is this? Although Rong had a miserable past, he still had many years of experience, having traveled both domestically and internationally. His gaze was incomparable to that of a recent high school graduate. Mud can never support the wall, the boy said after a sentence and turned his head. Jincheng, let's go, don't pay attention to such people. The girl ignored and took a step closer, saying, don't pretend you don't know me anymore. I've said before, I won't be in a relationship before graduating from college. If you're willing to fall for it, I can't do anything but tell your dad. Rong was taken aback for a moment. He had just returned to 10 years ago and was not willing to greet his parents through this method. Moreover, today is the day when the admission notice is issued, and there are quite a few people stopping by to watch and point. He obediently threw away his cigarette butt, patted his pants, and stood up. The girl smiled slightly and took out a bottle of water. Wash your face well, look at your oily face. Thank you. Rong still took it over and poured some water, rubbing it on his face twice. The girl saw him wash his face and turned around to leave. It wasn't until they left that Rong seemed to understand. That's Xia Xianxian, right? They all left, you're still pretending, really. Yang Lei said helplessly, if you're rejected, then you're rejected. Why hang a tree? Rong knew that Yang Lei didn't believe him, but he didn't care either. He hugged Yang Lei's shoulder and walked back, saying as he walked, brother, once you get into college, you're an adult. I won't cry like a child if I don't get it. At the fork in the road, the two of them separated. In fact, the two families were quite close, just on either side of a fork in the road. Otherwise, Yang Lei wouldn't have followed Rong from elementary school to high school. The weather gradually turned cloudy, and gusts of cool breeze blew. Rong also remembered who the previous man was, and also remembered various legends of Xia Xianxian. Xia Xianxian is said to be the most beautiful girl in Tongjiang No. 1 middle school. Last night, she drank too much at a KTV classmate gathering, so she took advantage of her drinking power to confess her feelings to others, but was naturally rejected. Xia Xianxian has always been a well-behaved woman. She had already made a name for herself in junior high school, but when she rejected male students, she always looked the same. In junior high school, she said she wanted to take the high school entrance exam and couldn't fall in love, which would hinder her studies. In high school, she said she wanted to take the college entrance exam and couldn't fall in love, which turned into not being able to fall in love before graduating from college. Tongjiang is quite young. Although Rong's family is in town, his uncle's family and Xia Xuanqian's family happen to face each other. His parents often take him to his uncle's house, and after a while, his parents also know this handsome little girl from his uncle's neighbor's house. Of course, Rong is not ugly either. He is tall and thin. Although his face is not as good looking as Yang Lei's, he definitely belongs to the durable type. Although he has always been a good baby, he occasionally has a little rebellious adolescence. His family conditions are also good, at least he has not worried about tuition fees. In fact, he is quite intelligent. He died suddenly at a young age, and now he has been reborn by his own bad luck. He definitely wants to change his fate in his past life, whether it's being a top student or making money. Previously, the boy who mocked him was called Gao Shuren. His father was a real estate developer, and during parent-teacher meetings, he used to have big gold chains and small watches, exuding a strong sense of nouveau riche. Gao Shuren didn't learn much from this guy, but his father's narrow-minded attitude towards people was a vivid example. Tongjiang is a slow-paced place. Nowadays, at around 10 o'clock in the morning, many people sit at the door with chairs and fans, the elderly are playing chess, the women are gossiping about their family's gossip, while Rong looks at the long-lost streets and neighbors while shouting to them. 10 years later, these places were all in ruins. The younger ones went to work in the city, leaving only the older ones at home. As the older ones grew older, their voices gradually quieted down. 10 years later, his family still lived in this small town because his parents were talking about saving money to buy him a house and marry his wife. At the thought of this, Rong's eyes began to blur, and he quickly walked home. His father went to work in the city, and his mother was sweeping the floor. The building was still the same building, and the home was still the same home. Even a piece of glass fell off the door of the house. Rong shouted from a distance. "Mom, I'm back." The figure sweeping the floor straightened up and said, "When you come back, you'll come back." Shouting and shouting can be heard all over the street. Still the same old mother, still the same nagging, Rong thought to himself. Old streets, old houses, if my mother is familiar with them, it's easy to pull Rong back to her memories 10 years ago. Rong walked up quickly, grabbed a broom, and said with a smile, "You hurry up and rest, look at the good news your son brought back, let your elderly family be happy. Just you, can you sweep it clean? You've been giggling and not being serious all day." "I want to see your notice," my mother said seriously. Rong took the broom and slowly swept the floor, saying that he had been doing these jobs since he was young, so he was doing quite well in sweeping. Mom Xiao Meihui held the admission letter in her hand and glanced at Rong as she swept the floor. "You're pretty good at scanning, kid. I've never seen you scan so well before." Rong smiled and replied, "Isn't this the opportunity you don't usually give me to show off?" Xiao Meihui held the admission letter and looked up at it. "Rong, you have been admitted to the biology major of our school. Please report to the school on September 3, 2011 with this letter." Although he appeared serious, his eyebrows and eyes were filled with laughter. Thinking to myself, it's quite good for my son to get into the 985 exam. At least no one in the village has passed it yet. After graduation, I will find a good company and a good wife, so that I can take care of my son's grandchildren at home. This is the day that ordinary people look forward to. Chapter 3. Family Conversations. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After sweeping the floor, Rong felt like he was sweating all over and shouted, "Mom, is there any hot water? I'll take a shower. It's getting hotter and hotter day by day." "No, I'll go burn it now." "Forget it, taking a cold shower on such a hot day would be comfortable." "You little bunny, taking a cold shower is easy to catch a cold, and you'll soon get a good fever. Can't you wait for that?" Rong walked into the bathroom with a towel, thinking that his mother was still nagging. After taking a shower, he looked at his robust body in the mirror, young and energetic, with a slightly immature face that had a pair of eyes that were clearly not in line with his age. Rong reached out and touched the mist on the mirror, saying, since you want me to live a lifetime again, then I definitely won't be as weak as before. At this moment, Rong heard a majestic voice coming from outside. He dried his body, put on a vest and big shorts, pushed open the door, and walked out. "Dad, you're back." Standing in the living room was a middle-aged man in his 40s, not very tall but with a straight back, and his appearance was 5 points similar to his own. This is Rong and his father, Guoping, but their personalities are very different. Guoping belongs to the kind of person who takes things very seriously and is quite dignified at home. Rong used to dare not act recklessly in front of his father. But for the rest of your life, you don't have to hide from his father like a mouse when it sees a cat. Guoping simply agreed, looking at his son's hair still a bit wet, and walked over to get him a dry towel. Rong was about to talk to his father when his mother suddenly walked out with a half-pack of Furong King in her hand and said, "When did you learn to smoke, kid?" As Rong watched his mother start nagging again, he quickly said, "This was bought by my classmates before to pass cigarettes to the teacher. I accidentally put it in my pocket." Xiao Meihui didn't believe it at all and said to Guoping, "This kid is becoming more and more disobedient now. You, as a father, don't take good care of him." Guoping looked at his wife and started getting angry. He slapped Rong on the head and said, "You're only a little old, so you've learned to smoke. Let me smoke for now. At least you need to graduate from college to smoke." Rong looked at his father who had only smoked a few cigarettes and didn't take it seriously. He walked over to the table and placed dishes, saying, "All right, I won't smoke. Come and eat now." The family was eating at the table while Xiao Meihui discussed with Guoping, "Why don't you take a leave to send your son to school? It's over 1,000 kilometers in Jincheng." Before Guoping could agree, Rong interjected, "No need, I'm not a child anymore. I'll just take the train myself." "Over 1,000 kilometers, there's still so much luggage." Xiao Meihui glared at him, "If you don't need it, then you don't need it. Yang Lei took the exam in Chang'an and it's close to Jincheng. Let's go over together. If you want to go out and play, you can go out and play, don't worry about me." In his past life, Rong went alone, and in this life, he would never let his parents give him a ride. It was quite difficult to make a trip every 1,000 kilometers. Also, I want to start a business in college and try to earn some money without having to pay for tuition and living expenses. Nonsense, our family is not so poor that we can't even afford your tuition fees. What are you going to do? You should study hard in college and continue your graduate studies. Don't just think about what you have, Xiao Meihui said, putting down her chopsticks. All right, I just said to start a business without delaying my studies. I can still distinguish between these things. Let me give it a try first. After speaking, Rong quietly glanced at his father. He had to agree to this matter. "Okay, you can exercise as well, but when I say ugly things, don't let your grades go down, otherwise I won't spare you," said Guoping. Seeing that Guoping also supported Rong, Xiao Meihui became unhappy and said, "Okay, you two, father and son, are united. As a mother, I am just an outsider. I don't want my child to be good." As soon as the chopsticks were put down, Xiao Meihui walked into the room. Guoping walked in and comforted his wife, "I think it's good for the child to try it out. It's better than other college students lying down and playing games all day in the dormitory." Jincheng University places all undergraduate students in the Yuzhong campus, 70 kilometers away from the city center. Students usually spend 1 hour in the city, and there are other opportunities for exercise besides studying in the library. In his previous life, Rong only knew how to ask for money from home, and most of the remaining time was spent playing games without any entrepreneurial awareness, so he missed many opportunities. "I didn't expect this little bunny to change so much after taking the exam. When it comes to speaking, it feels a bit like an adult," Xiao Meihui murmured to herself. "Hey, man, growing up is a fleeting moment, and after experiencing big things, they will eventually grow up." Dad chuckled beside him. showing no signs of being serious at home. Rong looked at the persuasion of his parents and couldn't help but think about where he could start making money. After all, he had never done this in his previous life, nor had he been exposed to innovation and entrepreneurship. However, in his previous life, it was an information society, and he had never eaten pork before. At least, he had seen pigs running. He began to think about the profitable industries in school. After all, it's a school, so everything is student-centered. So how can we make money from students? He remembered the various popular professions among students in later generations, such as bike sharing, photocopying, express delivery, and takeout. Then we started to eliminate each item one by one. Shared bicycles currently do not have online payments or QR codes, so their feasibility is not high. As for copying, the initial investment is quite large. Although it is quite profitable, some people have already been involved in express delivery, so only takeout is available. If it comes to takeout, at this time, the shop at the school gate has not yet provided the doorstep delivery service, which is not a good opportunity to take advantage of oneself. Moreover, Jincheng University School is very large, and it takes only 20 minutes to walk from the restaurant outside to the student dormitory, resulting in many students only being able to go to the cafeteria to eat. As for the taste of the cafeteria, Rong has experienced it in his previous life. What needs to be solved most for takeout? One is the order, and the other is the manpower and transportation. After thinking for a moment, he realized that ordering is not difficult. Students can simply place orders by phone. Although smartphones were not as popular as in later generations, Nokia's PHS was still quite popular. All he needs to do is copy over the phone numbers of the restaurant owners and popularize them. As for the manpower, most of the students recruited by Jincheng University every year come from rural areas, and he is worried about not being able to recruit people when providing work-study positions. As for transportation, every year after graduation, students leave behind so many zombie bicycles that the school security office also finds it difficult to deal with. Therefore, it should be possible to renovate them and borrow them from the school. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that his idea was highly feasible. He wanted to discuss it with Yang Lei, as he had never done this before in his past life. So he called Yang Lei and arranged to have a barbecue together tonight. Chapter 4. Brothers Night Talk. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's already past 9 o'clock in the evening, and the area next to Baifu Square is still bustling. Baifu Square is the most colorful place for nightlife in Tongjiang. It is adjacent to several outstanding commercial pedestrian streets, and at night, late-night stalls gather again. The tired little girls who stroll during the day and the livestock who work all day like to gather here, order 20 beef skewers, order vegetarian dishes, serve a box of cold beer, and then start to relieve the fatigue of the day under the signboard of Laowu Paiga City. There were a series of small tables supported. Young people with bare arms gathered around each table in groups of 3. 2 floor fans were blowing, as if bringing a hint of coolness, but immediately they were covered by the hot air emanating from the people. Rong, here it is. Rong looked up and said, "Oh, this kid is sitting in a corner where the lights can't even be turned on. Why did you find such a dark place, kid? I just said I can't find you all the time." "Oh, don't worry, the admission notice has come out, and everyone has come out to eat, barbecue, and chat. After all, many people have started planning to go out and play during their holidays, and when we meet again, it's probably before school starts." Yang Lei stood up and waved. "Indeed. Oh, your table is still empty, haven't you lit it yet?" Rong walked over and pulled out a chair to sit down. "I ordered it a long time ago. 20 beef, 10 pork ribs, and 2 cola. What kind of cola to drink? It's already college time. Drink alcohol. Boss, add a box of wine, ice it." Yang Lei squeezed his eyes and said, "Oh, you're still drinking. Yesterday, some people made a fool of themselves just by getting drunk. Oh, that's why everyone gets drunk without getting drunk, okay. I'm a notorious person who never pours 1,000 cups. That means I won't expose you. You were so drunk yesterday that you scared everyone. The class monitor almost called for an ambulance. Alright, let's not talk about that. It's really hot today. Let's talk about what college should do, Rong said casually, wiping the sweat off his forehead. You also need to study hard in college, and then see if there are any pretty girls to have a beautiful relationship with. Lei smiled, his eyes almost narrowing. Take it away from you, you're like a pig. You've been spending a lot of money in high school, haven't you? To be honest, I think we should start with making money. Men can't do anything without money. Rong thought of his past life and sighed. Indeed, I was thinking of doing some part-time work at that time. After all, as a top student at Chang'an Jiaotong University, being a tutor should be okay, Lei pondered. Look at your achievements and still want to become a tutor. What's so good about earning a few tens of yuan per class? Rong sneered, do you want to do something big? Lei suddenly looked up and said, do you have any ideas for making money? I think you have an idea. Of course, don't you take a look at me. I've known before that college students don't really like eating in cafeterias, they like to eat outside, but the campuses are very large, and many people are worried about eating outside and coming back, so I decided to help them deliver their meals to their door. Rong sat up straight and looked at Lei. You have a great idea, kid. You don't feel like you can make a lot of money either. How much is a meal worth in total? Even if you run errands, you can't make much money, Lei was a bit puzzled. TSK, take a look at your situation. What kind of money can I make by running on my own? I'm planning to start a big business, package all the business in the store, and then hire someone to run, Rong said with a disdainful expression. Wrap it up. You're a big spender. Do you know how many stores you have there? It's a bit exaggerated, Lei said in shock. There won't be more than 50 restaurants around a school, so I'm planning to first select the businesses that don't have particularly good business but have good quality and affordable food to cooperate with, let others see the results, and then slowly expand business. Rong picked up a skewer of grilled meat and handed it to Lei. Come on, eat and say, the skewers are all cold. Lei took the string and took a bite, then your main cost is on hiring people and transportation. How are you planning to handle such a large expense? I have inquired and found out that the school provides a subsidy for college students to start their own businesses. With this money, they can start their own business. Then, the merchant will provide them with a free 1-week gift to show them the results, and then sign a contract with them. The payment can be calculated based on the order quantity or on a monthly basis. Then, for bicycles, you can buy local second-hand bicycles, which are relatively cheaper. Every year after graduation, students leave behind a large number of zombie cars, and the school only sells them as scrap. I can purchase these. Rong picked up his glass and said, come on, drink. Your idea is quite reasonable. Is there anything I can help with? I didn't feel like I could have invested that much money at first. When I got into college this time, the total amount of red envelopes I received at home was only about 2,000, and I can give you all of that, Lei replied, holding up his cup. That's enough, I can also bring some money myself. It's definitely enough to start with. I'll give you some money then. If you have any ideas in the future, you can do the same at your school. I think there's still room for improvement. Rong bit a piece of beef and tugged at the sign. In that case, you probably need to go to school early and ask the shop owner in advance. You also need to understand the school's policies and see how much funding you can get. Lei touched his pocket and said, if you want the money, I'll give it to you in a few days. The red envelope is still in my parents' hands these days. They said they'll give it to me when school starts soon, so I don't plan to travel. I'll lend you this money for now. Alright, I'll be over around August and we need to talk about something in advance. Rong picked up the last string and handed it over. Come on, eat this string, let's go back and blow the fan. This place is going to heat up. On the way back, Rong kicked stones while lost in thought. This time, when he went to school, he had to do some things. One was to solve this money-making job, which he had never done in his previous life. It was still a bit uncertain whether he would do it in this life. But in my past life, my roommate started from scratch and also started a considerable career. In 4 years of college, I simply started training, and after graduation, I really made a lot of moves. I opened a small training company and won many gold medals in domestic and international subject competitions. I usually talk to him a lot, step by step. Maybe this world can also pull him onto my own commercial giant. Then there is the scientific research that has been evaded since the heavy lifting. He majored in biology for his undergraduate degree, and in his previous life, he was assigned to the ecology major, which is essentially an interdisciplinary field of biology, environment, and some chemistry. So it's not simple, the 4 major sinkholes account for 3, and after crossing, it's even more amazing, abbreviated as the Divine Pit. But he still wants to do some ecology in his lifetime. After all, he has many advanced ideas, and he vaguely remembers many classic articles on ecology. As he walked to the doorstep, Rong pushed the door open and found that the lights were all black and his parents were probably asleep. He walked lightly to his room and didn't bother to wash up. He lay down, but couldn't sleep anymore. Chapter 5. The called Scientific Research. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. In his past life, he didn't understand anything. After going to college, he always followed the crowd. He took the C2.4 and C2.6 exams in his freshman and sophomore years, took professional courses, and entered the undergraduate group for experiments in his 3rd year, which is actually the called bottom level of scientific research. Early admission to the undergraduate group. Then, he was admitted to graduate school in his 4th year. When I was applying for graduate school, I believed in the big pie drawn by the school and my supervisor. I stayed on campus to pursue my graduate studies, and then pursued my master's and doctoral studies. However, during the doctoral stage, my supervisor's personality changed greatly, and he began to exploit students. He was reluctant to spend money on experiments but demanded that students write big articles. Rong held the pitiful amount of data in his hand, and in his 2nd year of doctoral studies, he gathered 2 articles. However, his supervisor repeatedly expressed dissatisfaction and refused to allow submissions. Finally, he submitted them near the graduation of his doctoral degree. Then it was obvious that due to insufficient publication of articles and the inability to find suitable institutions, I had to sign a contract with my supervisor to continue my doctoral work, which was described as finishing my doctoral work. Then, while rushing for a post-doctoral fund book, I suddenly died Rebirth for a lifetime, and by the time he received his admission letter, he had countless opportunities to make money in his mind and knew many more advanced thinking. He should have chosen to use his foresight to make money and live more easily. But he still wants to make some achievements in scientific research. The takeout order he discussed with Yang Lei before was just a means to earn some pocket money, just to make himself financially independent in college and not ask for money from his family anymore. Engaging in scientific research is also to make up for his unfulfilled wishes in his previous life. Perhaps conducting scientific research has always been a white moonlight in his heart. The moonlight shone brightly on the blanket, and Rong lay tossing and turning in bed, unable to sleep. A scene from a past life of scientific research came to mind, and the more I thought about it, the clearer my mind became. So I sat up and started planning what I needed to do at school at 6 o'clock in the morning. It was just dawn in Tongjiang. Rong had preliminarily planned what to do when he arrived at school. She got up and brushed her teeth and washed her face. Xiao Meihui was disturbed by the commotion of washing up, and when she got up, she glanced at him and said, "Oh, the sun is setting in the west today. Young Master Li is willing to wake up so early. I'm hungry, ready to go out and find something to eat after washing up. Do you want to bring it to you? Li Rong patted his stomach and said. I'll tell you why you woke up so early. You woke up hungry for love. We'll make some food at home later. How healthy we are when we make it ourselves. Think about how the steamed buns outside are all made of lymphatic meat. Xiao Meihui finished speaking and continued walking towards the bedroom. I'll sleep a little longer, please be quiet. Li Rong had no choice but to open the door lightly, and even helped the door handle when locking it. Walking onto the street, there were indeed not many people, and several early morning shops had just started operating. The morning air was a bit cool, which could bring a touch of comfort in the hot summer season. This rice noodles is really good, Mom really loves this dumpling. Oh, this is not xiaolongbao. If you talk about lymph in the morning, let's talk about xiaolongbao. Li Rong quickened his pace and walked over. The steamer was steaming hot, and the air emitted a pleasant aroma of white flour. This xiaolongbao has been open for 6 or 7 years. Li Rong Primary School has been eating it here since the meeting, but his mother always said that it was lymphoid meat. But Li Rong loves to take such a bite. Boss, a cage of xiaolongbao and a bowl of soybean milk. Li Rong pulled out his chair and sat down. Okay, it will be ready soon. The boss brought a cage of xiaolongbao, and then went non-stop to scoop soybean milk. Take a small plate, pour some oil chili, put a xiaolongbao in it and dip it in some red chili oil. Hiss, it's really fragrant. After eating xiaolongbao and drinking soybean milk in one breath, I felt warm from my throat to my stomach. Li Rong let out a sigh of relief and leaned back, feeling extremely satisfied, even feeling a bit dizzy and sleepy. Hey, wake up. How long have you been occupying someone's table? Do they still want to do business? Li Rong opened his eyes in a daze, and a handsome little face approached him. His talking eyes blinked and blinked. Xia Xianxian, why are you here? Li Rong rubbed his face, appearing a little more energetic. I'll come over for breakfast. I've always loved eating this steamed bun. Xia Xianxian lifted her head and glanced at Li Rong. You didn't sleep last night, didn't you? You wouldn't be so fragile, would you? Li Rong was really a bit confused. After thinking for a while, she finally remembered what she said might be the confession of the oolong incident. She smiled bitterly and said, what the hell? I came out from home to eat at 6 o'clock, and after finishing it, I felt a bit dizzy and squinted for a while. How could this be? Oh, don't argue anymore. Yesterday you pretended not to know me, you were trying to avoid embarrassment, right? Xia Xianxian hesitated for a while and pouted her rosy little mouth, saying, I know you're a good person, and you've been helping me in high school, but I really don't want to start dating so early. Ah, what's on this woman's mind? Li Rong swallowed back at the edge of his mouth. If such words were spoken, it would be worth it, after all, they have also experienced some in their past lives. Li Rong instinctively pursed his lips and didn't say anything. Did I get it right? I didn't say a word. Xia Xuanxian's big eyes flickered with a hint of cunning. Okay, you're right. Have you finished? I'll go check out after you finish. Li Rong instinctively touched his pocket to find his phone, but found something very awkward. This is only 2011, there's no mobile payment. It's over, I didn't bring any money, it's embarrassing now. How could you please me? You took good care of me in high school before. Xia Xianxian seemed unaware of Li Rong's embarrassment and shook her head, saying. Okay, that's the happy decision. Li Rong readily agreed and decided to skip the topic. Which school did you apply to? Why didn't I hear from you? My grades were slightly worse. I applied to Jiangzhou University and Xiangjiang University, but they were both a few points lower. Now I have been admitted to the mathematics department at Shaanxi Normal University. Xia Xianxian reached into her bag and took out money, then turned to Li Rong and said. Shaanxi Normal University, that's really good. In Chang'an, it's very close to Jincheng, so you can come and visit me anytime in the future, Li Rong said, and immediately realized that he had made a mistake. Xia Xianxian frowned and said, oh my, I've told you I don't want to date in college, so don't hold on to that hope anymore. Okay, thank you for the hospitality. I'm ready to go home. Li Rong instinctively wanted to avoid this question and got up to leave. Don't leave, speak clearly, don't evade this question. We grew up together and used to treat you like a brother. Why did you say such strange things that day? Xia Xianxian angrily pulled open her chair and crossed her waist in front of Li Rong. Chapter 6. Green Plum. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Speaking of which, the Li Rong family and the Xia Xianxian family were not far apart, and both parents knew each other. Xia Xianxian is 1 year older than him. They have been going to school and playing together since childhood. When they were tired of playing and fighting, they just lay down together. In elementary and middle school, Xia Xianxian grew faster and was always 1 head taller than Li Rong. When Li Rong was bullied, Xia Xianxian always stood up for him. His current impression is still that Xia Xianxian led the crying child to settle accounts with other children. At that time, Xia Xianxian crossed her hips and angrily demanded an apology from the other children, or else she would beat them back. At that time, whenever there was something delicious, Li Rong would keep a portion for Xia Xianxian, or else she would have to be beaten in high school. Li Rong seemed like a fertilized crop in the field, and overnight he grew taller, even taller than Xia Xianxian. When Xia Xianxian was in high school, she felt that her studies were not as easy as before. She listened attentively to classes every day, took honest notes, and completed her homework carefully. However, during exams, she didn't perform as well as Li Rong, who always played around. Xia Xianxian often gritted her teeth in anger. In her 3rd year of high school, Xia Xuanxian's grades had a significant decline. Li Rong felt that she was struggling, so he often tutored her more, taught her problems, and made revision plans. As soon as they came and went, someone started to coax them, saying that they were a perfect match from childhood. It's hard to guess the thoughts of the little daughter, and Xia Xianxian didn't know if she was mostly shy or angry at the time. Anyway, she just said, I couldn't have been in love when I was in high school. Li Rong didn't take it seriously at first, but the more he tutored, the more strange his thoughts became. He even occasionally found the little girl quite cute. Adolescent teenagers couldn't distinguish between good feelings and love, and in the later days, he paid more attention to Xia Xianxian. He also liked to turn his head to take a look in class, and then showed a smile on his aunt's face. A good person noticed this scene and became more and more fond of teasing, and Li Rong seemed to enjoy the feeling of being rumored as a lover. However, Xia Xianxian became more and more embarrassed, and with some girls' unique shyness, she avoided this relationship even more. Apart from seeking advice and learning, she even deliberately avoided walking and encountering it after the college entrance examination was over. Li Rong drank some alcohol at the KTV that day. The catalytic effect of alcohol and the ambiguous lighting effect inside the KTV made him feel his heart beating fast. Looking at Xia Xuanxian's charming face and watery big eyes under the light, he became even more confused. With a little encouragement from the onlookers and an unknown courage, I rushed forward to confess my feelings, followed by the popular, "You are a good person" segment. Thinking of this, Li Rong couldn't help feeling a bit embarrassed. In terms of his later life experiences, he actually didn't have any later life experiences. After all, before his death, he was a single mother and fetus. He seemed to recall a past life without this one, because after failing to confess, he felt unable to face it. Then he gradually distanced himself from Xia Xianxian, and had almost no contact afterwards. However, a year before his sudden death, he heard from his mother that her family was urging her to go on a blind date, but she refused to go. Reviving this life, he really shouldn't continue to regret it. Anyway, starting a relationship is always good. Thinking of this, Rong touched his own head, like a sleazy uncle who abducted an ignorant girl. Chun induced him, I feel like I really like you a bit. We've played together from childhood to adulthood, and we've gotten along well in personality and everything. Don't refuse so early. You don't want to be in love in college, but there will always be times when you want to be in love. Let's be friends like before, and if it's suitable, let's deepen our friendship. If it's not suitable, let's continue to be friends. Xia Xian's face turned red and her two cute little ears were also stained with red clouds. She whispered, whatever, but I didn't fall in love when I was in college. I have to study hard and then take the postgraduate entrance exam to find a job. Rong felt happy in his heart and said, hey, it's done. We are only worried about your refusal. As long as you don't refuse, there will be a chance. As the saying goes, a good woman is afraid of being entangled with her husband. As long as you don't refuse, cabbage will always be attacked by pigs. Looking at the little cabbage in front of him, Rong tried hard to suppress his smile, but the corners of his mouth still curved unconsciously. When are you planning to go to school? Do you want me to see you off? Let's stop by. No, my dad will definitely take me there, and we're not going to school in the same place either. Xia Xianxian seemed to realize that what she said gave this guy an opportunity to take advantage of it, so she turned around and left with a snort after teasing the little girl. Rong saw her face turn red as she walked back. Rong was also quite happy. We ordinary people are so happy now. Rong didn't worry and walked back unsteadily. After arriving home, I thought I needed to prepare some things. I must bring my phone when school starts, and since I am preparing for scientific research, a computer is also necessary. With that thought in mind, it's really necessary to plan ahead. Mom, lend me 10,000 yuan. I need to buy some things for school, and I also need to buy a computer and a phone. Rong screamed as he opened the door. I heard you, I heard you. Keep your voice down, you're going to deafen your ears. Li Mu opened the door and took out a card. You can go and withdraw the money yourself, apply for another card, and transfer your tuition fees to the card. All right. Rong took the card and immediately turned around to walk out, thinking, it's already around July 20th today. We need to quickly pack up and leave. It's already troublesome to just contact the merchants when we get to school. After withdrawing the money, Rong suddenly realized that there didn't seem to be any particularly good smartphones this year, except for the iPhone 4. However, one thing to say is that this phone is really expensive. Now the price is around 4,000 yuan, and he still needs to buy a computer. Why not buy a button press machine and use it for now? It's just a simple phone call. After buying his phone, Rong went to the train station to buy a train ticket for August 5th. He turned around and hummed a song, heading home to pack his luggage. Mom, I bought a train ticket and will leave on the 5th. Rong shouted as he pushed open the door, what did you do at noon? It smells so good. I left so early, you need to pack your luggage quickly. I heard it's really cold over there, and it might snow in October. Xiao Meihui slapped Rong's hand towards the plate and said, wash your hands first and eat with chopsticks. Oh, Rong reluctantly went to wash his hands. Listening to his mother's words, he remembered that his past life was indeed very cold. It snowed during military training, which was extremely outrageous. At that time, the big guys were all wearing short-sleeved camouflage clothes, one by one frozen like dogs, and just as they passed by, they were hit by a big mouth in the northwest. Chapter 7. Departure. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In a blink of an eye, it was August 5th, which was the day when Rong should have set off for school. Early in the morning, Xiao Meihui picked up her suitcase at the entrance and knocked on Rong's door. You're up, aren't you leaving early today? You still have to go to Star City. Then she turned around and walked into the kitchen, getting busy. Rong put in a lot of effort to open his eyes, feeling like they were sealed with cement. Wiped the corners of my eyes, yawned, and reached out to reach for the bedside alarm clock. Damn it, it's only 5.30. Rong was speechless and flipped the alarm clock onto the bedside table, flipping over and continuing to sleep. Hurry up, the dumplings I cooked for you will get cold if you don't eat them anymore. Xiao Meihui began knocking on the door again. Rong wished he could cover his ears with a blanket and reluctantly shouted, "Here we go." He muttered to himself, "Last night you had to be afraid that I wouldn't take good care of you in school. You forced me to get up so early at 12.30, where did I have the energy to get up so early?" He rubbed his clothes and rubbed his eyes to wash his clothes. At the dinner table, Rong saw something called dumplings in his bowl, which was actually steamed buns. His mouth showed helplessness, and indeed, whether it was in his past or present life, his mother always couldn't make dumplings well. As she looked up, she saw Xiao Meihui staring at her, as if she was about to kill herself if she didn't finish her meal. With a bitter smile, she picked up her chopsticks, picked up the dumplings, and stuffed them into her mouth. It was said that the dumplings made by her mother were not very good in appearance, but at least there were no major problems in other aspects. "I don't understand why you have to go so early. It's not good to stay at home for a few more days. After going to college, you usually come back much less. Remember to keep your bank card and phone safe, and there are still many petty thieves in the car." Xiao Meihui muttered as she peeled an egg and put it in Rong's bowl. "You said you wanted to go to Jincheng to check the computer, so you had to go earlier. You still have to catch the train at 7 p.m. in the evening. Jincheng is not very familiar to you, so what should we do if it's delayed? Isn't the wife of Wang Sun.in.law's younger brother selling an electronic brain in Tongjiang Computer City? It's really impossible. I understand why you have to choose on your own." Rong smiled wryly again, unable to refute it. After all, in the minds of the older generation, it is a truth that acquaintances are easy to handle things. In his past life, he bought a computer from that so-called acquaintance and spent 8,000 yuan on the entry-level Lenovo Y470 model. At that time, I didn't understand either. My acquaintances shouted for a discount of 800 yuan and earned 2,000 yuan with tears in their eyes. This time, he plans to go to the Star City specialty store by himself and choose a product that can last for 2 to 3 years. He also needs to reserve some funds to use as the capital for entrepreneurship. After finishing breakfast and walking to the door, the first thing that caught Rong's eye was a suitcase and a small mountain piled up with packages. Watching his mother pack his luggage taller than himself, Rong felt like he had never been so tired before. "Mom, I'm going to school, not moving. Do I need to bring so many things, such as bed sheets, duvet covers, and blankets? Why did you bring so many boiled eggs? After all, the quality of the blankets bought at school is relatively poor. It's really cold in Jincheng, so you must bring a thick blanket and bring boiled eggs to eat in the car. You'll have to sit there for 30 hours, won't you be hungry? There's heating over there, it's not that exaggerated. I'll just go there alone. There's no need to bring so many things. You can send me the missing ones later. I can't eat so many eggs, I'll just bring 3. If I'm really hungry, I'll go to Jincheng to buy something to eat." Rong tried to persuade his mother while putting out the unnecessary things. Jincheng is not that exaggerated either. He remembers that the 4 years he spent on the undergraduate campus in his past life were the most comfortable. The undergraduate campus is 70 kilometers away from Jincheng, and the climate is more inclined towards the south. Especially in winter, the school heats itself, and it starts heating early in October. The dormitories are also equipped with insulation layers, and the indoor temperature can reach over 20 degrees. The greenery is also pretty good, and there are no teachers who stay regularly. Every day, besides attending classes and studying, I just play. That time was really enjoyable, Rong thought to himself. You should try to bring as much as possible to avoid thinking about not having a thick blanket when it cools down, Xiao Meihui earnestly advised, then sorted out the things Li Rong took out one by one, and prepared to receive them in the room. After hard sorting, there is still one suitcase, one backpack, and one luggage bag left. Looking at what was in front of him, Li Rong was extremely satisfied. He felt that he could feel a little more comfortable on the train now. After all, taking the green train with big and small bags has always been one of his nightmares. When Li Rong was pulling his suitcase out, he felt that the sunlight was already quite scorching. This is how it is in the south. The sun in July and August wished it could scorch people, and as he walked, he was sweating profusely. Fortunately, he caught a bus to the train station in time. Tongjiang Station is not far from his home, and it only took about 15 minutes to get there by the broken bus. After a lot of effort, Li Rong squeezed out of the bus and found himself soaked all over. Well, it's better to walk slowly. I don't know when this broken bus will change, it's slow and crowded. Li Rong didn't go home many times since college in his past life, but every time he came back, he felt that Tongjiang was developing rapidly. In the later few times, he even felt like he had gone to a new city. Entering the train station, the train happened to start ticket checking. Holding on to his suitcase and enduring the sweat and smell around him, Li Rong found his seat at 13A. Fortunately, by the window, when Li Rong packed his luggage and sat down in his seat, a wave of fatigue hit him. He hugged his bag and leaned against the bed before falling asleep. Ladies and gentlemen, hello. The train you are taking is heading to Jincheng Station. Passengers who disembark at Jincheng Station, please prepare to disembark in advance. The train is stopping at platform 6 for 8 minutes. In a daze, Li Rong immediately woke up when he heard the news broadcasted by the train, rubbed his eyes, took off the suitcase from the luggage rack, put on his backpack, and prepared to get off. I don't know why. In my past life, no matter what mode of transportation I took, I was able to sleep as soon as I got on the bus, and I was sure I would wake up when I got to the station. Li Rong always thought this was a great skill, but I didn't expect to keep it in this life. After finally climbing the stairs with his suitcase, Li Rong was a bit tired and panting. Fortunately, I left most of it at home, otherwise this trip of climbing would have cost me my dog's life. Walking out of Jincheng Station, I saw the big Jincheng characters on the square in front of the station. Various taxi drivers were using Jincheng dialect to attract customers, and various small vendors were selling things on the square. Chapter 8. Star City Encounter. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Walking to the square in front of the station, Li Rong found a store with luggage storage signs to store his luggage, and then walked to the roadside to take a taxi. Master, go to the computer city. Okay, you must sit down and hold it steady, yeah. In 2011, there were still many motorcycle rentals in Jincheng, and Li Rong had always liked to ride motorcycles. On the one hand, motorcycles could ignore the influence of the environment and shuttle left and right in the tightly congested traffic flow, leaving behind a series of exhaust emissions and the shouting and cursing of car owners behind. On the other hand, when motorcycles run, the wind is still very comfortable, and there is no mandatory helmet to wear at that time, and it is still much cheaper than taxis. 10 minutes later, Li Rong arrived at the entrance of the computer city. He had never been to this place before, but he was still quite accurate in his needs. This was also one of the reasons why he convinced his parents not to buy a computer from acquaintances. Entering the computer city, the bustling crowd inside is mostly composed of 2 big and 1 small groups. After all, after the college entrance examination is over, many students will think about buying a computer after receiving admission letters. In 2011, spending thousands of yuan to buy a computer was a significant expense for most families, so it was mostly the responsibility of both parents. However, for someone like him who was single, he was an exception. His parents were more at ease with him, as he had been raised on a free range since childhood. Li Rong thought of buying a computer that could meet the needs of reading literature and normal office work this time. After all, in this era, ecology in China still relies more on ideas and innovation. rather than requiring a large amount of data analysis and statistics 10 years later. The speed of electronic product updates is too fast. Instead of spending money on high-end laptops at the beginning, it is better to wait until he has a confirmed job position and then configure a desktop computer. After all, it is only then that a wave of data volume is king in China and internationally. Since it was a purposeful selection, the speed was very fast. As soon as Rong walked in, he went straight to Lenovo, and then picked a thin and lightweight laptop produced last year. He negotiated for over 4,000 yuan and settled the bill directly. This resolute attitude made the salesperson in charge of him unable to resist the smile on his face. After all, in this era, the salesperson has become accustomed to a large group of people picking and bargaining on computers, and it is common to sell one in 1 or 2 hours. After picking up the computer, Rong was ready to go out and find something to eat, but he saw two familiar figures at the door. Uncle Xia, Xia Xianxian, you're also buying a computer. Rong ran over happily and said hello. Uncle Xia can be said to have watched him grow up, almost recognizing his godfather when he was young, let alone Xia Xianxian. Xia's father turned around and saw that it was Rong, who was quite happy. After all, he also regarded this kid as his godson and said, Xiao Rong, why did you come over to buy a computer too? Hey, I even talked to your father yesterday. Your father said you're leaving in the next few days. Why did you really leave early? Rong scratched his head and smiled, saying, hey, I don't want to go there early to adapt. I also want to prepare some things as soon as possible, and take a trip to see the scenery. After all, I heard that military training is required at the beginning of college, so I don't have time to go around and take a look. You're right, by the way. You'll bring Qianshan to buy the computer later, and you know I don't understand these parameters and configurations at all. Coincidentally, I have a meeting in the afternoon around 4 o'clock, and it's already over 12 o'clock. I need to go back quickly and take care of Qianshan. After saying that, Xia Dad hurriedly walked out. Uncle, don't worry, there's no problem. We'll definitely take good care of Qianshan. Dad, Xia Xianxian stomped her feet in anger, very angry at her father for being so irresponsible. She even threw herself at a malicious person, and then Xia Dad squeezed into the crowd without looking back, like a drop of water merging into the river and never finding a trace. Rong was a little overjoyed. After all, this was the first step of the long march, and it was thanks to Xia's father for leaving them this time of solitude. Let's go, aren't you going to buy a computer? I'll take you to see. The one I just bought is quite good, both useful and cheap. Rong waved, gesturing for Xia Xianxian to follow. Humph. Xia Xianxian was still very angry, feeling very resistant to being alone with this malicious guy. However, as she watched Rong gradually walk away, the 17-year-old girl felt a bit flustered. Hey, you walk slowly, I can't even keep up. Rong didn't turn back, but slowed down his pace. Xia Xianxian caught up angrily and said, why are you walking so fast? Looking at Xia Xuanxian's slightly flushed face, slightly undulating chest, and slightly fluffy lips in front of him, Rong seemed to be stunned. What are you doing? Why aren't you leaving? Didn't you say you want to accompany me to watch the computer? I just saw a very cute one, small and lightweight. I want that one. Your model is not good, the configuration is very poor, and you are studying mathematics. Many courses in the future are similar to computers, so the requirements for computer performance are still relatively high. Rong explained very seriously. But it's cute. Rong felt a bit helpless. I haven't heard of that brand before. If it breaks down and you can't find official after-sales repair, I think you can consider first-tier brands like HP, Asus, and Lenovo. The quality is very good and the after-sales service is guaranteed. But that one is really cute. Then you can buy that one. I don't care if it breaks, don't say I bought it for you. Rong was speechless and spread his hand to Xia Xianxian, saying. Okay, I'll just talk about it. listen to you. Xia Xianxian felt a bit resentful. After wandering for a long time, Li Rong felt like his legs were going numb. It was only then that Xia Xianxian chose a Lenovo Ultrabook, which was lightweight and highly configured. The only downside was that it cost nearly 10,000 yuan. Without blinking an eye, Xia Xianxian took out her card and settled the bill. Li Rong's eyes were almost fixed on the side. Isn't it worth considering if it's so expensive? Don't you have to ask your parents? This is my own New Year's money savings, not a lot, my parents don't care, Xia Xianxian said lightly. Oh, she's still a little rich woman, Li Rong thought to himself. Let's go, it's already 2.30, I'll take you to eat something. Li Rong walked out with his bag and computer on his back. Xia Xianxian followed closely, fearing that she would be left behind again. After all, this place is unfamiliar with life. After walking for a while, I arrived at a small Xiang restaurant by the Xiang River. It was not very large, with a slightly yellowed sign that even felt like it was about to fall off. The door was also tightly closed, and Xia Xianxian was wondering. Li Rong walked up. Chapter 9. Leaving. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xia Xianxian was puzzled when he gently pushed the door open. The small restaurant had a small area, probably only 30.40 square meters, and upon entering, there were 4 slightly lacquered old-fashioned tables, with the patina on the table indicating some years of age. This place is indeed quite remote, and I don't know how this guy was found, Xia Xianxian thought to herself. I saw Li Rong lift the door curtain and continue walking backwards. He walked out of the kitchen 7 or 8 times and arrived at a small courtyard. The courtyard was right next to the Xiang River, and when he looked up, he could see the slowly flowing river water. The gentle river breeze blew over the water, creating ripples. The wind with the dampness of the river water caressed his face, itching and feeling a bit comfortable. At first, Xia Xianxian wondered why Li Rong had brought her to such a remote place. Now, she felt the gentle breeze brushing her face, and the scorching summer heat left here for a while. She looked forward to the taste of this restaurant's food even more. Do you have any freshly caught fish? Let's make 1 fish and 2 side dishes. Li Rong seemed very familiar with this place, and without asking for the menu, he casually ordered the dishes. Then he pulled out his chair and lay down on it, shaking it leisurely. How do you know there's a store in this place? I don't remember. You've been to Star City many times, I feel like you're very familiar with it. Xia Xianxian opened her flickering eyes, filled with curiosity. Li Rong didn't think of explaining either. It can't be said that he came to Jincheng for a meeting in his past life. The local teacher recommended this place, especially when he woke up early in the morning and wandered around for a whole day, lying on a chair shaking and falling asleep. Upon seeing him fall asleep, Xia Xianxian gritted her teeth in anger, but couldn't directly wake him up, leaving her feeling suffocated. All the dishes are ready. Xia Xianxian pushed Li Rong and saw that he hadn't woken up yet. A hint of cunning flashed at the corner of his mouth, and he reached out to pinch Li Rong's arm before spinning. This action was so skillful that it was effortless. Ouch. Li Rong suddenly bounced up from the chair, covering his arm and constantly moaning. The feeling of familiarity and unfamiliarity suddenly struck, which was the trick that Xia Xianxian used to deal with him in middle school. It wasn't until high school when many people started pointing that he began to lose this habit. The dishes are all served, hurry up and eat. Xia Xianxian quickly lowered her head to conceal the smile on her lips. This restaurant specializes in steaming fish with chopped chili peppers. It must be freshly caught fish that is fresh enough. After steaming in a steamer, pour a large amount of chopped chili peppers over it, and then pour hot oil over it. The snow-white fish meat is soaked in hot and spicy red chopped peppers, with a bright red color and a hot and fragrant aroma. Li Rong's stomach was already hungry, and he didn't want to be polite to Xia Xianxian. He reached out and grabbed a piece of snow-white fish meat, which was sticky and soft to the taste, fat but not greasy. The smooth and tender fish meat was wrapped in hot and spicy chopped peppers, and he felt like a volcano was erupting in his mouth, with a strong aroma straight through his head. Xia Xianxian was also hungry and quickly reached out her chopsticks to pick up a piece. After entering, her eyes widened and she said, "Wow, how come it's so delicious? How do you know about this shop?" Li Rong had no time to pay attention to her at all. He grabbed the time to cook and scooped up some soup to pour on the rice. The golden soup, red chopped peppers, and white rice lured the taste buds and couldn't stop. Xia Xianxian saw that Li Rong didn't pay attention to her, so she snorted and didn't want to be outdone. She reached out to snatch the fish and meat from Li Rong's plate. In no time, the 3 dishes on the table were swept away, and the remaining plates could all serve as mirrors. The food is delicious and the price is not cheap. A fish costs 200 yuan, and small dishes should be given as gifts. Xia Xianxian was a bit surprised by this price. Li Rong went over to settle the account, and Xia Xianxian had no intention of AA either. She thought of inviting him back again next time. When preparing to go out, Xia Xianxian felt a bit uncomfortable and her face turned red. When she was eating, she only focused on eating and accidentally ate too much. Now she couldn't even walk. Li Rong saw her standing still and realized that she probably ate too much. After all, her appetite has always been just a small bowl. Today, she ate 3 bowls. Can she not hold on? While secretly laughing, he slowed down his pace. "Let's take a leisurely walk and then go to the train station, okay?" Xia Xianxian lowered her head and let out a sigh, feeling like her image had been ruined today. How could a girl eat 3 bowls of rice at once? It's all because this guy brought over the delicious food. She kept poking and complaining while walking forward with her head down. Ouch. Xia Xianxian looked up and realized that she had hit the electric pole. Tears of pain were about to flow out of her eyes, but Li Rong was giggling on the side, getting even angrier and stomping forward. Around 5:30, the 2 of them also made a detour to the train station. Li Rong and Xia Xianxian bought tickets to Tongjiang and went to pick up their luggage. Seeing Li Rong pulling a suitcase, carrying a luggage bag, and carrying a large backpack, Xia Xianxian panicked. It didn't seem like she was going home at all. "Where are you going? Aren't you going back to Tongjiang with me?" "I'm going to school. Today is my departure day, and I came to Jincheng to buy a computer and transfer. What should I do? How can I go back? I dare not go alone. You're so grown up, and you've also bought tickets. Just get on the bus and find your own seat to sit down." Li Rong was quite puzzled. At the age of 17, he didn't even know he was taking the bus. "You promised my dad to take care of me, but you left me behind and let me go back on my own. How could you be so irresponsible?" Xia Xuanxian's voice was choked up, and a layer of mist covered her big eyes. Li Rong panicked for a while. He couldn't even figure out why he had put on such a name. It was indeed because he didn't think it right. He had always been quite independent, thinking that it was not a big deal to go out alone in a car. He didn't notice that the little girl was going on a long journey alone for the first time, and he only had a familiar person by his side. Gradually, he relied more. "It's okay, it's okay. I'll put you in the car and then I'll tell your dad to pick you up at the exit. It's okay, just take a nap and you'll be there." Li Rong comforted in a flustered manner. After all, he was also lacking in consideration and quickly found a way to make up for it. Xia Xianxian raised her head and stared at him with foggy big eyes, like a gentle and pitiful kitten. "You keep your word." Okay, I'll go see you off right away." Li Rong smiled bitterly, indeed considering too little. So he took Xia Xianxian to the ticket gate and watched her board the train. Xia Xianxian turned back 3 times, afraid that he would suddenly run away until he got on the train. Not long after, the train to Jincheng was also about to depart, and Li Rong picked up his big and small bags and squeezed into the train to Jincheng. Chapter 10. Jincheng. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Woo. With the sound of a whistle, the train entered Jincheng Station, which has been a key town in the northwest since ancient times and the starting point of the Silk Road. In the past few years, when the country vigorously developed the western region, Jincheng experienced a leap in development. However, in recent years, with the disappearance of policy dividends and era dividends, Jincheng has gradually begun to decline as she has experienced in her history. The crisp camel bells opened the scroll of the prosperous Tang dynasty. However, the nomadic tribes also invaded the city like a vast expanse of yellow sand. The policy dividends of the anti-Japanese war and the founding of the People's Republic of China were like accelerators, bringing vitality to this ancient city. However, geographical defects still made her miss the dividends of reform and opening up. However, despite the ups and downs, Jincheng remains Jincheng. This magnificent city stands on the banks of the Yellow River, drawing on the majestic power of the Mother River. It is a city of history, witnessing the rise and fall, as well as the glory and disgrace of the Silk Road. Time has washed away the essence of the city, leaving behind deep traces and endless stories. The weight of history is intertwined with the vitality of modernity, like a colorful painting. The water of the Yellow River shimmers under the reflection of the sunset, as if telling an ancient legend. The white pagoda mountain in the distance is faintly visible in the clouds, like a Chinese ink landscape painting. The blood of the Jincheng people is naturally filled with wine and poetry from the border. No matter how cold the northwest wind is, it cannot polish the edges of the Jincheng people. The northwest wind has been blowing for thousands of years and remains rough. The land in the northwest is not barren, and the yellow sand and gobi are also covered with bitter water roses. As he walked out of the train station, the bustling traffic on the road seemed to connect his past and present life. Rong stood on the roadside, mixed with emotions. This city was the one he had stayed in for the longest time besides his hometown. The grandeur of the Northwest had already flowed into his blood like wine, and he regarded it as his second hometown. Having restrained his divergent emotions for a moment, Rong pulled the box and walked towards his familiar place. Jincheng University. Jincheng University was only a 10-minute walk from the station, and in his past life, whether it was going home or on a business trip, he had walked this road hundreds of times. Along the way, he looked at familiar or unfamiliar signs, and Rong stepped into the school gate. Rong was very familiar with Jincheng University, so he easily found the administrative office of the School of Health and applied to move in early with the on-duty teacher. Jincheng University's dormitories were actually divided as early as the admission results came out, so it was just a quick help. The on-duty teacher readily agreed and then called the logistics teacher to communicate, turning around and saying, "There may be a situation that needs to be explained to you in advance. Your new students have always had their dormitories located on the undergraduate campus, which is 70 kilometers away. As a result, all undergraduate students are on vacation and it may not be convenient for you. You can go over and put your luggage on. You can go to the undergraduate campus to find the dormitory management to retrieve the keys. The logistics department has also communicated with you. Your dormitory is located at Building 1, 512, and you can take the school bus directly from the old gymnasium in the past." "Okay, thank you, teacher." Rong spent 4 years at the undergraduate campus in his previous life, so he is still very familiar with the environment there. However, what he needs is to go ahead and tinker with his money-making plan, so he needs to stay there for a period of time, and then write some small articles to communicate and interact with his previous boss in advance. After leaving the office, Rong walked towards the old sports hall. If his impression was good, there would be a school bus to the undergraduate campus in half an hour. At the school bus stop, as he had expected, only a few people lined up sparsely. As soon as he put his luggage on, the driver came out of the duty room. Rong followed the driver onto the car, paid the money, bought the ticket, and then found a back seat to lie down and sleep with his eyes closed. "I staggered all the way to the undergraduate campus. When I got off, Rong couldn't help but complain that the drivers in Jincheng were like retired race drivers. They almost didn't step on the brake normally, either in a big way or in a sudden. He cursed and picked up his belongings from the car, walking towards the dormitory. "Hello uncle, I am a student who moved in early. The logistics teacher asked me to come directly to pick up the keys. I live at building 1, 512. Okay, let me find the key for you, young man, and then you can sign the check that I notice." The dormitory manager in building 1 is a divine figure, of medium height, with dark skin, but he takes care of it neatly every day, often with a smiling face and a big white tooth exposed. Everyone only knows that his surname is Zhang. He is in his 50s and plays Tai Chi every morning, exercising and cleaning. He plays the harmonica at around 10 o'clock and enjoys attending classes in the afternoon and evening. In his past life, he was even rated as the most popular dormitory pipe. Taking the key and carrying his luggage up to the 5th floor, Rong was gasping for breath. The dormitory on the 5th floor was something he had never been satisfied with, and the school did not install elevators. Moving things on a regular basis was the most tiring thing. He found a bed by the balcony, which was a good location. On the one hand, the view was good, and he could clearly see that there were not many people in the cafeteria downstairs. On the other hand, it can be ventilated. It is well known that male dormitories are dirty and have a strong smell in summer. There are no obstructions outside his dormitories, and the wind can blow in directly, which is quite good. Rong packed his luggage and made the bed. He sat on the bed for a while, thinking about going to the cafeteria to find something to eat. After all, 30 hours on the train are enough to handle things, but during the summer vacation, don't think about what delicious food the cafeteria has. Most of the students have left, and only a portion of the students who are doing experiments and looking for jobs stay. The cafeteria only has 2 or 3 guaranteed windows, so it can only be said that hunger never dies. Walking to the cafeteria, Rong looked at the soft dishes in the security window. Unable to show any interest, he ordered a bowl of beef noodles. Jincheng beef noodles are famous for beef lammian noodles in other places, but there is no beef lammian noodles in the local area. Everyone calls it beef noodles. Jincheng beef noodles are made according to the standards of 1 clear, soup, 2 white, radish, 3 green, coriander garlic sprouts, 4 red, spicy seeds, and 5 yellow, noodles yellow and bright. The soup is clear and rich, and it is carefully cooked with beef bones simmered slowly over low heat. The radishes are pure white, the spicy seeds are red and bright, and dotted with garlic sprouts and coriander. The noodles have different characteristics, such as large and wide, leek leaves, 2 thin, 3 thin, and thin. Rong has always liked leek leaves, thinking that large and wide noodles can absorb rich soup. After taking a bite, the smoothness of the noodles, the numbness of chili peppers, and the fragrance of the soup bottom all converge in one bite, leaving a lingering aftertaste in his mouth. Holding the beef noodles, Rong found a seat and took a big sip, feeling extremely satisfied.